Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Brittany Bierman on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from the windy city that is Chicago, where, it's nice to have another fellow Midwesterner on who at least understands cold. But before we get into all that weather stuff, because that's just depressing for me as it is, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey and discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Brittany, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
To get things started, why don't you just first off give us your backstory? What inspired and motivated you to get in shape, and how that led to you taking the bodybuilding stage, and just your journey.
Oh wow. I was an athlete like my whole life. I played soccer from the age of 4 to 18. Grew up super competitive. Um, Once I decided not to play college soccer, went to college. It was a very hard transition going from soccer, every single day, playing it all year round to nothing. So I feel like I just needed something, and I was just, very competitive. When I was already in the gym throughout high school just for staying in shape with soccer. I was always told to, you should try competing and you'd be so good at it, whatever. But I was like, no, like, my focus is soccer, like, but thanks, but no thanks kind of thing. Um, but yeah, once I finally didn't have anything, I was like, okay, maybe I should give this a try. So my first prep was my freshman year of college. So I prepped out of my dorm room for 19 weeks. And I just absolutely just fell in love with it. Like, I felt like it was totally aligned with my personality. I learned so much about myself, and just like just everything I learned, carried over into my daily life. Like, I felt like my schoolwork improved. I felt like I was just a lot more like disciplined and structured. And I'm sticking with it just because of just how much, how many lessons I've learned and just how much I've improved from it. So yeah, that was, my first prep, um, freshman year of college. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. And I just stuck with it. So now I'm here like 6, 7 years later, still doing it.
So let me get this straight. It's the first year of college. Everyone is experiencing these new things. They're out of the house. They're doing all this new stuff. And there's Brittany, who's prepping and, having to eat her, protein all the time and not being able to go out and stuff. What was the reaction like that of other people like in your dorms? Because I think that would be fascinating to be like, okay, Brittany can't go out because she's got to get up early in the morning and work out, I guess, or something like that.
Well, so I felt like my peers always kind of knew I was like into the gym to begin with. Um, so they totally like weren't surprised, but I guess like once like actually like prep started, they didn't understand like how rigid it was. So it was definitely a huge change for like my roommates and just like my peers around me. Um, yeah, it was kind of yeah, it was a lot for them.
Yeah, I have texts saved on my phone from my first year of college, just like that. I wasn't on prep or anything, but like I would get texts from people being like, "Hey, it's movie night tonight. We're gonna watch Scream or something like that." And I literally just text them back after I go to the gym. I got to finish up working out right now. I go to the gym, and then they text me back, "You're always at the gym. What the hell?" And then I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I just got to go to the gym." So then, yeah, I still save those things just so I can look at them every once in a while and just realize like how into it I really was. Now I'm still into training and stuff like that, but I'm not anywhere near that level where it was just like I have to get done. I have to get. So I understand a little bit, like what that's like, but when you were getting into the sport of bodybuilding, there's so many myths and misconceptions about the sport from the general public. And especially when you had the female side to it too. Those myths just get
Mhm.
multiplied by like 10. Was there anything that you were worried about, competing or anything like that? Or was it just one of those things that you wanted to just dive right in and see what happens?
I just dove like right into it. I was absolutely just like ready to go. And it was actually kind of funny. Cause my dad's like super into like working out too. And I told him, I was like, Dad, like, like I kind of want to get into competing. Like this is like what I want to do. And he's like, well, if you want to compete, like, maybe you should get a coach, and, this is who your coach should be. So actually it was like a friend, who he introduced me to, someone from the gym, like a trainer, like a prep coach. And Um, I'm actually still with him today, so it's like the same coach I've had for like 6 years or so. And so like my dad actually introduced me to him. And because of that, I felt like I was like in good hands. So I'm like my dad wouldn't like refer me to someone who wouldn't like take care of me kind of thing. Um, so I was like just kind of like ready to get right into it. I was like so excited to prep that like I practiced waking up for fasted cardio. Like I was insane. So I would wake up, like around like 6:30 or so, and then I'll go do like a cardio session because I just wanted to establish like habits, so I wouldn't be totally surprised of this huge transition from like just like lifestyle to a prep. So I just wanted to like build habits, so I wouldn't be like as shocked because everyone says like, oh my gosh, like prep is the hardest thing ever, like you're not gonna make it kind of thing. So I was just like so excited. I just dove right into it.
What do you think makes a successful coach relationship? Because we've heard so many stories on the podcast of people who only they stick with coaches sometimes for only a couple of years, and you've been with your same coach for 6 years. What do you think makes it that you're able to stick around for a long period of time? Because it is in the minority, I think, of people that stick with their coaches for such a long period of time.
Yeah, I know, I totally agree. Because I mean, just like my circle of friends, like they just kind of like coach hop, or I mean, whether they're, I mean, I guess a couple things. I feel like some competitors, they want like that instant gratification and they want to win their shows. They want to go pro. And then if they don't get that resolved within one season with a coach, they're like, okay, adios. Like, I'm going to go somewhere else. Um, and which is just not fair to the coach because the coach needs to like gather, data and stuff on your body and just like see what works.
And
Um,
plus, out of all the guests I've had on, I'd say it's probably maybe like 10% of them win their pro card in their first show. Like it's not,
right,
it's very rare.
right, absolutely. So that's like one thing that I see. Um, is people just need like instant gratification, and then sometimes I just see like it's just not a fit, which is totally fine. I feel like finding a coach is can be very hard. I kind of feel like it's like dating sometimes. You need to find like the right vibe with them. The right. I feel like there just needs to be like good communication, and yeah, I feel like there's just like so many variables that can go into it where just the competitor to the coach just don't work out. Um, so I feel like I kind of see kinda like both sides to it a little bit.
I've always said that coaching is not really as it's not talking about like how hard of a thing it really is as opposed to just the train. I mean, the training and doing all that stuff is hard enough, but the coaching, I mean, you really, I mean, if one thing goes wrong, you can really mess up a person. So it's so important to just be as precise as possible and just try to
Right.
be as good. Because yeah, there have been some stories that I've heard of people, just by one little slip, and next thing you know, that person is just has severe health complications. And so yeah, it's a lot harder and more intense than I think a lot of people put it out to be. But I mean, this is also so much of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. I mean, the mentality of the sport alone is impressive enough, but this whole mental side of it, I mean, people can walk up to you and say, "Oh my God, Brittany, you look amazing," who might not have seen you for a while. They don't understand, though, that mental transformation that's taken place as well, which is 100 times more important than any of the physical changes. What has this journey been like for you mentally?
Oh, it's definitely been a journey. I would say one thing, that's popped into my head is, I mean, just prepping like through college, and it's definitely wasn't the norm. I definitely like got like some hate for it. People were just like, "What are you doing? Like, this is weird. Like, why aren't you like out of the parties with us?" Kind of thing. But I loved it. So it kind of taught me to just stick to my guns, like stay true to yourself, and whether just be yourself, kind of thing. So it taught me that, and then just going through like each prep. Um, Being accountable and just checking my boxes every day and just getting everything done. It just I would say I already had a type A personality, but I would say it definitely polished it and enhanced those characteristics. I just a lot more like disciplined and structured, and just I keep myself like a lot more accountable, and that is definitely, like I said, crossed over into my life outside of the gym. I definitely had much better grades in college compared to high school. I just did very well like academically because I feel like my prep life was so organized and like bodybuilding was so organized, I felt like I was just able to, yeah, just translate that into like my schoolwork and stuff. Um, and yeah, just keeping that structure all year round was really helpful for me, especially just as like a young woman, I think.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about my grades in college because I was
Mhm.
I was a business major, and I realized with about 2 years left that like I could get straight A's, and if you're a business major, it really does not matter. So yeah, I was going to classes for tests only, basically, for like my last year of college. If I'm going to be, completely honest. So
Well, it's okay. Yeah, I don't even use my degree, so it's okay.
that is I mean, if I honestly don't know if I would have even like gone if I would have known ahead of time that like, yeah, how many of my friends don't even use the degrees. Like, now obviously the ones that are like doctors and teachers and stuff like that, they use their degrees, but it's like, come on, people. It's I wish I would have known. I don't even know if I would have. I mean, heck, I mean, I am just turned 28, and I am going to be. I moved out of my parents' house right before COVID, and then I had to move back in. I moved out 2 months before COVID really hit. Then I had to move back in, and now I'm finally going to be able to move out again. Everyone, so rethink college if you don't want to be 28 years old and just moving out of your parents' house for the
Oh
second
my gosh,
time.
no, I would
So
never do it again. I like
yeah.
once I came back from graduation, I was like, "See you guys later. I gotta move out."
And plus, you didn't even like have fun, really. So it's just like I mean, no, I'm just kidding at college, but no, I mean, yeah, my parents are luckily they're very understanding and they're very helpful with all this stuff. So, but yeah, that is, I mean, and I interview some celebrities that they like, so that's how I pay them back too. I was like, "Do you have any questions for Kevin Costner or someone like that?" And then they're like, "Oh my god, you're talking to Kevin." So that's how I slowly repay them back for all this as well. But I mean, I love to talk genetics on this podcast too because so many people do not understand that you can train just like someone, you can eat just like them. You're not going to get the same results, unfortunately. People are just born different, and I could train and eat just like Jay Cutler, and unfortunately, I'm not going to walk on the stage and look just like him. But everyone also always has that one body part that really, really takes off when they start working out, and they have that one body part that just drags behind. They have to train to oblivion when they get started. What was one body part that really took off for you, and what was one body part that's just been dragging behind?
I would say my legs are definitely like my strong point. I think just, the years of playing soccer and just running, like, because I also like ran like distance and stuff for fun. So I've done like a couple half
Okay, okay.
marathons.
What is fun about running distance? That's a mental illness that I don't even want to tap into.
It's the mental, endurance that you need to get through those races. So I don't know. I always thought it was super fun.
My mentality during those is, oh, hey, look, more grass. Look, another tree. Never seen one of those before. No, but I have a friend that runs marathons too, and I want to go to the end of one of those races and just hold up a sign that says you didn't have to do this, basically, and then just like,
You don't.
yeah, exactly. So your legs took off. What was one area that you've been struggling with?
I would say, I'd say my shoulders. After I competed this year, we changed my routine. We have to train shoulders like twice a week now. And I would say, yeah, just like my lower body took off. But also at the same time, I've never had an off season where it was upper body dominant. I feel like my workout splits were always pretty even towards like like training and upper body training. So even though like my shoulders like do need a lot of work, I'm really excited to see what we can do when we do give some extra attention to my shoulders and upper body.
Well, if you would have saw my Instagram story yesterday, you could probably guess what mine were. But you can. I think it's still up there. It'll be up there by the time we're done talking to you. I was 19 and I still really hadn't really discovered that legs were a thing that you could train really in the gym. I was the typical gym bro where it was just all upper body and back and abs was about the lowest I got. So yeah, and well, I'm 6'3" too. So legs were, even when I did start training them heavily, that's just one of those body parts where like I could train them into oblivion and they wouldn't gain an ounce. Like calves don't
Mhm,
even get me started. I could do 10,000 calf raises, but back was the one thing that always took off for me because in college I worked a lot of like UPS jobs where I was just unloading trucks, and you
mhm.
got a nice back, you quit. So that was at least that for me. But I mean, nutrition is one thing that is not talked about as much as it should be. It's talked about a little bit, but I mean, with the results that nutrition gives you, it should be the be all end all, at least in my opinion. But what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you really started to take things seriously?
I would say I've always kind of ate like clean, you can say. I would just say like the biggest change was actually going on my way and like weighing it. And just yeah, weighing out all my meals. Because I always ate chicken and eggs and like oatmeal. Yeah, nothing new came into my diet food wise. I would say I just had to take that extra step to actually weigh stuff out.
Yeah, the weighing part. So were you that one person in college too, where they'd like see you weighing stuff in the kitchen? There's like, oh yeah, there's Brittany doing her thing.
Oh my yes. Yes, I was. No, I'd come back, I'd
Everyone else is weighing their shot glasses for the proper amount for a shot, and there's Brittany doing her chicken weighing and rice
I
weighing and all
know.
that stuff. Yeah.
I know, yeah, I come back to my dorm room, I have my mini fridge, like, with all, like, my egg whites and chicken and stuff in there, and had, like, my scale on the side. No one understood, like, what the scale could possibly be for except for, like, drugs or something. So they were just confused, but I'm like, "No, I have to, like, weigh my food."
Hey, how do you think she afforded bodybuilding, everyone? Do the math. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that is, I mean, yeah, just the fact that you did this through college, because out of the guests that I've had on, I think only like a dozen of them have actually done it through college. And that is, to me, that is both the saddest and most impressive thing I've ever heard. So, way more power to you. But okay, before we go in any further in this podcast, I got to ask, has anyone ever told you that you look like that lady that played Sansa Stark in Game of Thrones?
Oh my god, yes.
I
Yes.
to- I totally got that when I was talking to her. Like I was thinking for a long time. I was like, she looks like someone that I either know or like a celebrity. And then that finally clicked. Like when she was explaining that last question, it finally clicked to me, and I was like, oh yeah, it's like
That's
this.
so funny.
Yeah.
What's also really funny is actually I just watched Game of Thrones for the first time, ever. So I'm a little late to the game. Um,
Please tell me you were as angry as I was at that last season. Like what the hell happened there?
oh my, yes, of course. They had so much opportunity to milk that because they had America by their throat, and they could have done so much with it. No, I was so mad. Um, yeah,
Before the long night battle, the Nightwalker battle, the big in the last season, I could barely sleep the night before because I was so excited. And then I took the day off work the next day so I could rewatch it just because I was so disappointed at it. And I was like, okay, what's going on? So, believe me, we're getting into a dangerous tangent here, so I gotta steer the ship clear. But I mean, like I honestly should do an entire episode of just me talking about how bad that last season was and how not to do a last. You like it ruined the show. So like, yeah, but I'm already getting a little upset right now. So let's go back into
you
bodybuilding.
don't
But I
need to
mean.
reopen feelings.
Oh my god, it's an open wound. Just it's like being a Minnesota sports fan. We don't even talk about. I'm wearing my Vikings shirt and stuff. We don't even talk about it. So it's just open wounds galore. But I mean, just on top of all the things that happen in this sport, the mentality that you need to have during a prep is something that most people do not understand, because once you go on a prep, I mean, everything just becomes so scientific. Everything just becomes so measured. What is that mind mind switch like for you when you flip that switch to go into a prep? Like what is that adjustment like for you? How are you able to just make that change? Because a lot of people just they would not succeed, myself included, in a prep.
So just like the mindset change between like an off season or a prep
Yeah.
or just going into a prep. Um, hmm. I mean that's a really good question. Just like yeah, just like my mindset between just like I don't know. I feel like I'm just like I feel like I'm on like 24/7 because I do like my check-ins like all year round. I have like my diet plan like all year round. I would say like this last prep, it didn't really like feel like I was in prep until maybe like 6 weeks out or so. Um, because then you're kind of starting to feel like the effects of like dieting and everything. But I feel like I was just like so excited to like get back on stage and just like show like my improvements and everything like that. Cause I wasn't, I took like 4 years off from the stage. So I last competed in 2018 and then I just competed this May. So I was just like so excited to kind of just like get back up there that like mentally I feel like nothing else, like, kind of mattered, like, just being hungry or, like, tired or anything like that, because I felt like these last, like, few years, I didn't really wanna get back up on stage, whether it was because of, like, COVID or just, like, everything being crazy or, I graduated college and, I had to put, like, my career first and kind of establish myself, like, career-wise, so it just never felt right, but once it kinda, like, finally clicked this year and I wanted to, like, prep again, I was like, "Nothing matters," like, I this will be it for, like, 19 weeks kinda thing. So I don't even know if that, like, answered, like, your question,
Oh no,
but
absolutely. You just have to go into that mindset of just like, I need to get this done. I need to do this. And it's like I said, like people in the general public do not understand when I mentioned that I talked to a lot of bodybuilders on one of my podcasts, they always say, oh, those are people who just work out a lot and then they go on stage and they pose. And it's like you got about 1% of it down. I mean, there's so much more to this lifestyle than that. And prep include, I mean, it's like I've always had that mindset of if you can get through a prep, you can get through anything. I mean, because it really just tests every mental bone in your body and every, every fiber in
Mhm.
you just to be able to step on that stage. So more power to anyone that is able to do that. But the number one thing that I was the most shocked by when I first started this podcast was how hard posing is. Most people do not understand that. They don't understand that posing for a lot of these guests is harder than your nutrition. It's harder than your working out. What has your experience with posing been like?
So my experience with posing, you know, when I first like stepped on stage in 2016 and like got my feedback and stuff, the judges said like my like presence on stage and like yeah, just how I presented myself was like really good, just like for being a first timer. So I felt like my like my presence and like my just like foundation of posing was it came naturally, but like it always needs to be polished and like your physique is always changing from like the beginning of prep to like peak week. So I actually did. I hired a coach, a posing coach this season, and she was super helpful because she said like I did have like 90% of it, but it's just like those tweaks that make all the difference. Whether it be like adjusting like your elbow a little bit, or like pushing out your knees a little bit more, or like arcing like your back a little bit. It just makes all the difference. So I felt like although it like came naturally to me, it's also like hard to kind of like assess yourself, to whether it be like, oh, like does this look good on me, does this pose not look good on me. So it was really helpful to have like a second set of eyes for a posing coach. And I think that last 10% was actually pretty hard, because for me I also felt like I was like getting frustrated, like, oh, I don't like this pose. It's like, okay, well, you're 8 weeks out, you don't have like all those lines yet, like just chill for another few weeks, you'll start like seeing that stuff. So I think I do have some difficulty with posing, um, up until maybe like 4 weeks out, and then it's like it starts clicking because then you can like see all those separations and everything like that. um but yeah, I'll definitely continue with the posing coach and continue like tweaking my poses and everything like that.
I have never met one person that likes what they look like in their off-season posing or even like 8 weeks out. So you are not in the minority there. But out of the poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
I would say my favorite pose is actually just like the model pose. And then I would say my least favorite pose is probably the back pose, just because I feel like I just need more muscle density on my back, just to really make everything pop a little bit more. So just more time growing my back, and I think I'll learn to like it a little bit more.
Well, at least with the back, I mean, you can let your smile down because a lot of people don't understand that your smile is going to be the most sore muscle a lot of times after a show than any other thing, just because you're going to be smiling that whole darn time. So that's really the only positive with the back too. I mean, that would probably be my favorite, just because my back is nice and you can kind of, let your gut fall just a tiny bit, let it out a little bit. But when you're walking on that stage, what is that moment like for you after you put in the months upon months of hard work and you're finally able to show off what you've been working so hard for?
I would say it's like super rewarding. Just everything your heart and soul was into it for the last like 20 weeks or however long you prepped, and you finally get to show off like your, improved package, and just, bring your best self. And just, everything that you've been through, whether that prep was, issues came up or setbacks or anything like that. It's very rewarding to, still get to the stage and, present your best, despite, whatever you've gone through.
And so many times people just look at the final package on the stage and they do not realize, yeah, like what's happened. I mean, I've had people that have broken legs, a few months before shows. I've had people that have, just gotten sick or something. There's just so much in the back. I really do wish that people would announce like what they went through more like on the stage, because that makes it even more impressive, because no one I've ever met has ever had a clean like 100% prep where everything runs smoothly. And if it
Mhm.
does, you've met a liar, everyone. I mean, I don't care what they say, but now we go to my favorite question to ask on this podcast. What is your go-to post-show meal?
It'll either be a burger or sushi. So pretty predictable answer. I feel like I get like a burger after prejudging, so I kind of get that fix, and so I'll get probably like sushi. Yeah, sushi. That's what I had post show last time, so it was really good.
I mentioned this twice before. I've had sushi once and I will never have it again just because one of my friends took me out and she's like, "Oh, you like chicken, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, chicken's fine." And then she's like, "Oh, just have tuna then. It's chicken of the sea." And then I'm just like, "Okay, fine." It has to be cooked. I'm sorry. I need to eat something that's cooked a little bit. If you're just gonna give me something that was just there's a video on there somewhere, which thank God she hasn't released it to the general public yet, of me trying to eat that and almost throwing up. So there's a video of that. So thank God that has not been released yet. And you know who, if you're out there and you're listening, don't release that. I will pay you all the money that I have just for that not to be released. But yeah, it is, yeah. Sushi is not my thing. But yeah, I've always made the joke, yeah, I'll rent out a Five Guys and give them $1,000 and just say like, hey, you're gonna feed me until I pack or until I puke, pass out, or throw up. But either way, I'm getting my money's worth. But we gotta talk post show blues because that is one thing that most people just don't think about when they realize that, like, hey, that look that you present on stage, you're not gonna be able to maintain it 24/7. Unfortunately, I've had guests that have tried to do that, and let's be honest, you're not at your healthiest. A lot of times, it leads to some adverse, health effects. What was that like for you when you first realized that, like, hey, this look that I've worked so hard on, cultivating, I am going to have to slowly put on weight? And has it gotten easier for you as you've done more shows and as you've just spent more years in this lifestyle?
Yes, I would definitely say, it's gotten easier, but I feel like, just compared to like how bad it can get, I feel like it doesn't really get that bad for me because my mindset is like the objective is okay, I have like this like laundry list of things that I want to improve and that like need to get better. And in order to achieve that, you need to like put on the weight, you need to, get back to, a healthy like body comp, and you need to get there so you can start like working towards putting on like more tissue or whatever your goals are. So it is tough, especially watching like the lines disappear and everything like that. But like I try really hard to just look at it like objectively, like hey, your feedback was you do need bigger shoulders, so we need to get you back to a healthy state so you can start putting on more tissue. And I think that's been really helpful, just looking at it objectively rather than, oh, this sucks, like I'm not shredded anymore. I'm like, okay, well, you can't like really like PR when you're shredded like at a week out. So that's just how I like try to look at it, and I think it's been really helpful.
And don't try to PR to week out too. That's another thing of
No,
advice that I will give
I
everyone.
don't.
I've had a handful of people on here that have tried to do that. I don't know if it was just because the brain fog finally got to them and they're just like, okay, I'm just gonna try this. And yeah, again, do not try that, everyone. But let's also be completely honest, Brittany, you're not the average looking woman. If you're to walk out in public, especially as you get leaner for a show, I like to compare it to like being a mini celebrity where you're just gonna draw people's attention because it's just human nature when they see something that's not of the normal to just be like, oh wow, that's interesting. What has that been like for you? Because like when I was in college and at my most in shape, it was still weird for me, even though I wasn't like in bodybuilding like shape. I was still in really good shape, but like it was still shocking for me. So I can't imagine what it's like, especially being a woman and having muscle too. What has that been like for you? And has it gotten easier for you to sort of just accept that as you've been more and more into this, or is it still one of those things where you're like, okay, this is kind of weird?
I feel like it's still like kind of weird for me because I just don't like being the center of attention, which is kind of ironic because I, get on stage
I was
and
just about
do
to say because you get on center stage in a bikini and
yeah,
posing everyone, yeah.
exactly. Um, I think it's gotten better though. I do try to like just dress, like just kind of like cover myself a little bit more. I would say it's a little bit tougher for work because I do like like a normal like corporate job. So I feel like you can like kind of tell because women's clothes don't really fit that well. But I think it's gotten better. I mean, yeah, I do get stopped, and people like will compliment me or tell me like, oh, like what's like your like workout like routine or like stuff like that. Um,
That's when you respond to them. Wait, I've never worked out a day in my life. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like I know I've had people like at work be like, don't you like to work out or something? And I'm like, kind of. I mean, sometimes.
On a rainy day, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I try like not to talk about it too much at work.
When I'm not at McDonald's, I like to work out. Just tell them, yeah.
Exactly. But no, like yeah, when people do like yeah, people will like stop me and compliment me and stuff like that. It's like the grocery stores.
Yeah, I worked at a grocery store one summer in between college, and there's like 4 or 5 fit people, and yeah, every time they would get stopped by people, and I would watch because I was in the meat cutting department there, so I would see them like always get stopped, and of course we'd have their orders already ready like the day ahead of time because they would be like, I just want to get in and out and get all my stuff, so we'd already have all the
Mhm.
stuff pre-made for them. So yeah, I understand exactly what you're talking about on that, but I mean, I talked about how cardio is the worst thing in my life. I hate it more than life itself. And when I say cardio, I mean actual running. Like I go on walks all the time. I love walking. It's a great thing. I will never run though. I have always told my friends, you will have to be chasing me with a knife if you want to ever see me run. But when you become a bodybuilder, unfortunately, you sort of have to sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna hate me, but I really like it.
Why? Like, so okay, so how do you entertain yourself while you're doing it? Because that's the biggest thing for me. Like, if I obviously like if I was running and I had music or something like that to obviously, yeah, it makes it a little bit better. But some
Uh-huh.
freaks that I talk to, like, they have nothing, and it's like you want to be alone in your thoughts for that long a period of
I
time. What the
do.
hell's wrong with you? Yeah.
I do. I would say, like, when cardio is, like, sub 30 minutes, I can just kinda just be alone, like, with my thoughts or just, like, zone out. Um, but I think, yeah, after, like, 30 minutes or so, then I will start incorporating, like, a Netflix show or something like that. Um, but also my cardio was like all hit training on the stairs this prep, and I feel like I definitely could not focus like on a TV show. So when I did have my hit training in the morning, it was like 30-35 minutes of just music, and I would just like get through it. But if it was like ever steady state, then I could tune into a show, and it's usually just like something like on Netflix or just something light, just to pass the time.
That was like me during COVID, but unfortunately, I ran out of TV shows to watch after about like 3 or 4 months, and then it just got to the point where I was just, and I ran out of movies too, so it just got to the point where I just had to figure something out. But it's a shame that it is so healthy for you. I will give it that. It's so good for your heart. It's so good for everything like that. If it wasn't, no one would ever do it, which I can totally understand. But it again, everyone, you have to do it because it's good for you. So I do have to put that out there. But I mean, the most important part of any lifestyle, regardless of if you train or not, is sleep. And anyone that disagrees with me on that, pull an all nighter. Tell me how that goes for you. When you're a bodybuilder, sleep can be bipolar at times, especially as you get ready for a show. And even during your off season, I talk to people that struggle with their sleep. What does your sleep schedule look like? Because some of you guys are getting up by the time I go to bed sometimes, which is just so fascinating for me.
I feel like I'm pretty lucky to where I don't have issues like falling asleep at night or like waking up during the night. I would say, I definitely need like my 8.5 hours. But yeah, when I was waking up for those early mornings, it was definitely took me a little bit of yeah, a little extra boost to get me up because I wasn't getting like my full sleep. But yeah, I know like some people that just have a horrible time falling asleep or just like staying asleep. I feel like I'm like lucky in that aspect where I don't have those issues. I've never taken like melatonin or anything, so like don't hate me. But yeah, when I was oh my gosh, is that like your best friend?
I mean, it helps. I've gotten way too used to it, I think, where it doesn't help
Yeah,
that much. But like, yeah, it is good. I do recommend it. Yeah.
yeah. So I would say like the only issue is like when you need to get up, do your cardio before work, is yeah, waking up on those early mornings. But again, that's just like when you tap into your discipline and just get it done.
I'm not gonna lie, I just remembered my dream from last night. My dream was that I woke up at like 1:30 in the afternoon today, and I was like, "Oh my god, I missed my podcast with Brittany." Well, I got to go for my walk and stuff like that. And then I remember like waking up, and I was like, "Damn, did I really miss that?" I was like, I checked my phone. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't get a message from Brittany." And then I finally looked up at the time, and it was like 10:15. I was like, "Oh, okay, we got time now, so we're good now." So yeah, I've had dreams like that before, where it's like, "Oh, you missed something," and I mean, I still have those dreams too. But that's what I think comes when you just, I mean. I always said that it's the hardest thing to fall asleep when the sun's coming out, which happens sometimes,
Oh,
the way
totally.
that I work. So I totally understand that, from people. But what's the best piece of advice that you think that you would give for someone who is just getting started working out? Because I hear this all the time from people, like they want to get started, they just don't know what to do, because I think a lot of people just don't have that guidance. And I mean, obviously the answer is hire a coach, but some people, like, they either they can't afford a coach or they live in an area where there's not going to be any coaches really around. So what general piece of advice do you think you would give someone if they just walked up to you and say, like, Brittany, I'm trying to get in shape, do you have any advice on like how I do it?
Yeah, so that was gonna be my answer was definitely hire a coach because I feel like the fitness industry is so oversaturated
Yes.
with so much information or just even conflicting information. So I feel like just hiring a coach would definitely help with having like one source of truth and just holding you accountable. But I'd say yeah, if you can't afford a coach, yeah, try your best to be consistent. Actually, yeah, no, that's actually my one piece of advice is be consistent. Like just show up every day. I would say get like your meals in, stick with like whatever your goal is. Try to be consistent like with your diet, get like your steps in, whether that be like 10K or like 12K, whatever. And yeah, just get like your workout, like your cardio in. And yeah, drink your water. People don't drink water. That is super helpful. So just be super consistent, with the variables that you can control and just be patient. I feel like we live in a society that everyone just wants everything like overnight, which is so irritating because bodybuilding is not an overnight thing. Um, so yeah, just be patient, be consistent, and also it's kind of hard sometimes to track your progress. So I'd also maybe recommend taking like progress pictures. It might be a little weird for someone at first, but they're super helpful because you see yourself every day, and it's hard to determine whether you're progressing or not. So I would say progress pictures are super helpful. You can also maybe monitor how like you feel like in your clothes. So maybe those are a couple of pieces of advice that would help.
Absolutely. Well, now I gotta ask, do you know what the record is for how many steps you've walked in a day? Like, do you have a thing in the back of your head?
Oh, I my steps are not really that impressive because I do have like a desk job.
Yeah.
But I would say, I did recently move. A few when I was like 8 weeks out, maybe I moved. And my steps were maybe over a little over 20,000, just from like moving and stuff that day. So that yeah, so that's like okay. But I will say though, I am going to Iceland in September, and we're doing like this whole like hiking thing. So I'll come back to you with maybe like 30,000 or maybe something crazy like that.
So I worked one day an 18-hour shift at UPS, and my
Mhm.
job involved a lot of walking around, 63,000 steps.
In
Uh,
one shift?
18 hours, yeah.
Oh
So
my
I was
goodness.
averaging just a little under, like, I was like 3,900 steps an hour for 18 hours. And it was like towards the end of it, like my feet felt a little like wet, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just sweat or something like that. And I took off my socks, and it was all blood. And it was just, yeah, it was horrible. Like that night, I have never slept more soundly than I ever had. Like literally, it got to the point where I almost fell asleep driving home because it's like a 10-minute drive home, and it also got to the point where I looked down and I was going like 120 miles an hour down the freeway just because I couldn't feel my feet and I didn't realize I was pressing on the gas pedal that hard, and I was like, okay, never, never again. Now, and I've had other shifts too. I've done like 30 to 40,000, and that's horrible. But yeah, so I had to bring that out there because for much as someone that talks about how much they hate cardio, for me to have done, I think when I did the math, it was like 40 some miles that I think I walked then or something like that in like a day. So like a marathon and a half basically in that shift. So yeah, it was not pleasant. So anyone that tells me that they walked a marathon, I said, well, do a marathon and a half, even walking, and then come back to me and see how that goes for you. But so yeah, and I mean, this is a thing that I think to myself every single time I have a health and fitness guest on, no matter how many times I've talked to how many people, it's still just human nature for me to think this. Why do they do this to themselves? Why do they put themselves through this? I hear all these prep stories, I hear all these other stories, and I just think to myself, why do they do it? Now, obviously, I understand why they do it because I've talked to so many bodybuilders on, and I, did a mini prep myself, and I understand like where that motivation comes through and the why. But I bet you still hear that all the time to this day. People just come up to you
Mhm.
and say, Brittany, why do you put yourself through this? What is your why that you like to respond to them with?
Yeah, my why is I feel like it's definitely helped me shape into, some really good traits about myself that I really appreciate today. I think yeah, during college, I feel like it could have gone like either way. Whether it be like, okay, yeah, I don't have like these like sport commitments now, like I can just go do whatever I want, or I could have continued being like in a competitive like environment kind of thing. And I think yeah, that was just like super helpful to just yeah shape the characteristics that I really like about myself. And I also like my why is just like I'm just very competitive, and I feel like I can like achieve a lot. And just whatever goal that I have, I feel like I can um, yeah, just put my mind to it and be able to like achieve like what I set for. So yeah, just being like super competitive and just like I love to lift too. Like I just love like working out and being active. It also gives me something to do like every single day, which I really like because for like soccer, it was like you had practice, 2, 3 times a week, and you had like a game like on the weekends. But this is like an everyday thing. I just like completing everything that I need to do every day. Makes me feel like accomplished. So it's just like all of that, I guess.
No, I mean, it obviously is a sport of delayed gratification. So many people go into it, like you said, they want the quick term fix and they want the quick solution, and they don't understand like it takes time and you have to put the effort in and you have to, dig down deep, which is what I think makes these athletes so special is that like they go through so much just for that like minimum, not I'm not gonna say minimum result, but just to like win. It's just you go through so many days where most athletes would never even dream to like go to that place mentally, where when it comes to at least the training aspect and the nutrition, and no other sport really other than I think like wrestling and maybe gymnastics where you starve yourself basically at the for the last part. So yeah, more power to that. And lastly, my final two questions before we wrap things up. I mean, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Brittany, we made a decision, you can change one thing about the bodybuilding lifestyle or the sport in general, you can do both, I don't really care. What would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Um, I don't know if we can like change this or if this is like an answer, but I don't really care for actually like the social media aspect of like bodybuilding and competing and everything. I feel like, Instagram is a highlight reel and it just kind of showcases like the best of these
It
competitors. And I
doesn't show them crying on the treadmill at,
Yes,
11 o'clock at
exactly.
night. Yeah.
Exactly. So like when I feel like these, novice people like want to get into bodybuilding, which is amazing, um, they have no idea what they're getting into. And I feel like it kind of sets up like false expectations of how it's going to go. And also, I feel like everyone like thinks they're a coach online, and I feel like everyone like wants to be like an influencer or just like quit their day job and just like work out full time. So
It
I
would
feel
be it would be great, but it's not a possibility for everyone. Yeah.
exactly. So I feel like I think it's awesome that social media has given us the opportunity to like connect with like-minded people. But I would say just be cautious of what you see, I guess, on social media because competing and just the bodybuilding industry is definitely not is a lot more of what you see online. So I don't know, we can't really change it. It just kind of is what it is with social media. But that's just one thing I don't really care for too much. Um, so I'd say if there's something that we could maybe like change. Um, I don't know. I've seen like some inconsistencies like with judging sometimes. Or like yeah, someone will be like, "Oh, like this was like the first person, this was the second person," and then like the next like weekend or something, like the criteria I feel like is like totally different. So sometimes the criteria can be like kind of confusing. Um, I've personally never had that experience where I felt like, like my placing should have been different or anything like that. But I've definitely seen some shows where I'm like, I wonder where that idea came from. So that's one thing is some inconsistencies.
Yeah, that would be my answer as well with the judging. And honestly, to make it not as financially draining on these competitors. Most people don't understand. You have to be like top 3 at the Olympia if you want to even break even
Yep.
with
Yep.
money. Like people don't understand like you are losing money doing this sport. That to me is when it goes to like probably the three most impressive things about people that compete in this lifestyle. That is definitely one of the three is like the financial aspect where it's like you are not gaining money by doing this. I
Right.
mean,
Especially, yeah, if you're a pro athlete, you feel like you'd be taken care of. But like no, like you still have like your 9 to 5, like you still have like you're training your clients all day or whatever, and then you have to go be a pro athlete too on your own dime.
you have to be like the Olympia champion or like the Olympia runner up to like not have a day job and just have this be bodybuilding with the amount of sponsorships. So yeah, I wish that would change as well, where it's like more people would just be able to focus
Mhm.
on the bodybuilding aspect. But I went to my first ever bodybuilding show like 2 weekends ago, and it was like $75 for like both prejudging and
It's
finals
crazy. I
total.
know, like, my family's like, "Do you want me to come?" And I'm like, "Well, it's really expensive, so if you don't, I totally understand." Like, it's so expensive.
Yeah. I wish they would change that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's the first time I'm admitting this on the podcast, but so I spent my third. So here's the funny thing: it was the Twin Cities Open. I spent $35 on prejudging.
Hmm.
I wasn't even checked when I walked in. I just walked. The door was open. I just walked in. No one checked for a ticket or anything like that or anything like that. So I just sat down and I was like, oh, okay, this is. I just wasted $35, and I guess I could have just showed up and just walked in, and then I realized that what they were doing for people that had bought prejudging things is that they had a Sharpie that they would give you that was green, that they would put an X on your hand that showed that, like, oh yeah, they paid and they had a ticket. So when I went home in between prejudging, I went to my dad's office where he has a Sharpie of every single color, put it in my pocket, and then realized for finals, if you paid, they were giving you a black X on your hand myself. So I just scribbled it on when no one was looking, and I got in for free then for the night. So I didn't spend the
I do.
$40. So hey, that's the thing right there. So really, I could have went with $0 and went to the show, but again, everyone, that too is like, yeah, the pricing of that thing is just ridiculous. So yeah, the financial thing is definitely one thing that I would love to see change, as well. But also, let's talk about like you said, everyone wants to be an influencer. Everyone wants to be a coach. I hate these people that compete in one show and then they think that they can be a coach then because of it. And they're just like, follow me. I competed in some amateur show where I placed like 8th or something like that.
Out of 8.
And yeah, I see that way too much where it's just like, no, don't, so it's risky waters trying to find a right coach. And, a lot of people do struggle with that. So I wish that wouldn't be a thing as well. But I'd love to have you on a year from now, just talk about what you've been up to and whether it comes to your bodybuilding or just your overall life. What are some things that you'd like to see accomplished by the time we have you on a year from now?
Oh, totally. So I'll definitely still be my off season. I plan to take off quite a bit of time, just because honestly, just being like a natural athlete, like it is I'm fighting like tooth and nail. Off season and prep, just everything. So I'm just taking more time off. And I don't want to compete just to have content for my Instagram. Like I want to like compete like to win and everything. So yeah, just taking extra time off. So at least, yeah, I'll be in an off season, and I'm hopefully, we'll have some improvements by then. I know like my back has a little bit of an imbalance too. I would say my left lat has some catching up to do. So following specific workouts right now. So hopefully next time we talk, I'll have more balance to my physique. Just like hitting the goals that I want to. And yeah, I'll still be in my off season, but I'll just be yeah, checking all my boxes still. Maybe have sights on a show coming up, but um, yeah, hopefully by then.
Yeah, that is great, and I think you'll do great. I mean, I've looked through some of your photos before I asked you to come on, and yeah, I think she has a bright future in the sport. And lastly, is there anyone that you'd want to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Yeah, shout out to my coach. Been together for since like 2016. Yeah, just the master behind the plan. Um, shout out to my boyfriend. Literally just my support during off season, in season, like everything. Totally has my back. He doesn't compete, but he's like the most supportive person. Um, so yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, just my coach, my boyfriend. Shout out and just all my friends and family probably watching this. So yeah, thank you.
I always say the significant others are the backbone of this sport, and they're the real MVPs because they deal with all that stuff. So, shout out to them, yeah. And again, everyone, go and check out Brittany. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Everyone, go and check it out. Buyer beware. You will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. But again, Brittany, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone. This is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.